Hey everyone, Tori here. Today I'll be summarizing Book 2 of the First Law Trilogy, Before They Are Hanged. My goal here with this video is for it to be quite a bit shorter than my Blade itself review. I think that one was about an hour long or so. I'd like this one to be under 30 minutes. I'd also like for it to be a little bit more concise. So we pick up here with Logan's old clan, consisting of Three Trees, Tolduru, and the others, and they're in England. They are against Bethid and want to fight against him, but they can't do it alone, so they get the idea that they want to join with the Union. Column West is in England at this time, and they end up ambushing him and his superior, Marshal Burr, and they let them know that they would like to join up, and Marshal Burr and West accept them. And with Glocka, we pick up with him arriving in Dagoska, which is the Union-controlled city in the south that the Gurkish are about to invade, and he's tasked with three things. The first one is to find out what happened to the previous superior who was there, the superior inquisitor. He also needs to prepare the city's defenses to fight against the Gurkish. And the last thing is to root out any disloyalty within Dagoska against the Union. Switching over to Bayaz, Logan, Pharaoh, and Jazal, they are on their journey to Shabulian to look for the seed. And Bayaz plans to use the seed as a weapon to combat Kalul, who is the second Magi after Bayaz. And he's promising Pharaoh that she'll be able to get vengeance against the Gurkish. And Jazal was originally supposed to go to England with Column West to fight against Bethid, but of course he got pulled out of that by Bayaz, and he's not even sure why, but he is along for the ride. We go back to Glocka here, and he had just arrived in Dagoska, and he meets with the city council, and they don't exactly welcome him, but they begrudgingly accept that he is the new power in the city, and they have to follow his orders. Glocka begins preparing for the fight against the Gurkish, and he discovers quickly that the city doesn't have nearly enough money to make the preparations that are going to be necessary for this fight. So he needs to obtain some money. He initially writes to Archlector Sult asking for the funds, but he is rebuffed. And after this, he is approached by a representative from the Valent and Balk Bank, and they offer him a 1 million mark loan, which more than covers the city's defense costs, which he accepts in exchange for future favors in return from him. We go back to Bayaz and company, and they're continuing their trip, and they come across a large amount of corpses that look like they were freshly killed. A short time after this, Bayaz and the rest of the group encounter some soldiers on horseback, and the soldiers tell them that they need to go back. Bayaz tells them that that's not an option for them. They need to keep going forward. And when it becomes clear that the soldiers that stop them are not going to let them go any further, Bayaz uses some magic and kills several of them, and then the rest run away. After this, Bayaz is comatose. After this, the group quickly decides that Logan should be the leader. He reluctantly agrees. They put Bayaz in the cart that they're carrying with them, and they continue on. We quickly switch back to Column West here in England. He notices that the army is in a bad way. They do not have any smiths to make any repairs or weapons, so he goes to a city that is close to Dagoska and to a prison within the city that's controlled by a branch of the Inquisition there, and he procures two smiths there by the names of Pike and Cathal. We go back here to Glocka, and the Gurkish send an emissary to negotiate his and Dagoska's surrender, what ends up happening is he interrogates him, puts him to the question, and he ends up learning instead who the two traitors are in the city council, and they end up being Magister Eider and Korsten Dan Verms. Then they end up killing the emissary and putting his head on a spike, letting the Gurkish know they will not be suing for peace. Glocka also discovers that the previous Inquisition had taken 3 of the servants for the previous superior prisoner and were putting them to the question to see what they knew about his disappearance. 2 of them ended up dying, and there was a third one. Her name is Schickel, who is still alive in the prison. Glocka ends up releasing her from her chains and has her working as a servant for him. A short time later, Glocka is in his room, and this whole time he's expecting to be assassinated, or there to be at least to be an attempt made to assassinate him in the same way that the previous superior was. And lo and behold, it ends up happening, and the assassin who tries to kill him ends up being Schickel, the prisoner who the previous Inquisition had imprisoned. Schickel's attempt to kill Glocka is thwarted by the other practicals, Vatari, Severard, and Frost, but only just barely. Schickel appears to have superhuman strength and does not bleed when she's injured, and we are left to assume and discover that she is actually an eater. They decide to chain up Schickel and question her, and their questioning seems to only confirm that she is in fact an eater. She's working for Kalul, and she was the one who killed the previous superior. To end part 1, we go back to Column West in England. Prince Ladislas, who is the son of King Guslav, who's the king of the Union, is in England with Column West, and they want him there to get some experience leading an army. They end up finding Bethet's army, and Ladislas takes the opportunity to order an attack against the advice of his generals and West. The Union army is absolutely crushed by Bethet. Column West, Ladislas, and the generals there are all attacked, and only intervention by Three Trees and the other barbarians in Logan's previous clan, they end up saving them, and they get away. In part 2 of the story, we begin with Glocka and Dagoska. The Gurkish have begun their siege of the city, and for the time being, the preparations that Glocka has made is rebuffing them. We then go back to Logan, Jazal, Pharaoh, and Baaz. They encounter a second group of adversaries, this one consisting of 13 of them. Their plan is to preemptively strike against these people before they look like they're going to attack them. So Logan and Pharaoh end up taking out about 10 of them. 3 of them actually get around them, and they attacked Jazal, Malachus, Kwai, and Baaz. And at this point, Jazal is the only one able to fight. So he ends up killing 2 of them. He begins celebrating, and Kwai points out that there's someone else coming for him, and before he can turn around, he is struck by something and he is knocked out. Short time later, we come back to Jazal, and he is unable to move. He can barely open his eyes. He's not able to speak. He's in a great deal of pain, and he's at this point a prisoner in his own body. And we end up finding out that the 13th assailant that he didn't see struck him in the face with a mace. And the result is he has a broken jaw, The assailant also struck him in the arm and the leg, and those are also broken. Jazal is now bedridden in the back of the cart, and he has to be spoon-fed food and water while he heals. Short time later, Jazal is still recovering from his serious injuries. Bayaz has recovered from his, and the group encounters Zakaris, who is one of the apprentices in Bayaz's order. He lets Bayaz know that he doesn't agree with with the journey he's undertaking, seeking out the seed, but he will not get in his way. And the group continues on. Some weeks after this, the group is continuing on their journey to Shabulian. Jazal has recovered significantly from his injuries, and he has a serious scar on his face now, and his jaw is not set correctly, and he has to get used to now this new face that he has. He's also missing some teeth. We also learn a little bit of Bayaz's history and how this all came to be about. We learn that Canedius, who is the maker, created a weapon called the Divider, which touches both the other side and the world that we're all in now. We also find out some more information about his relationship with Ptolemy, which is Canedius' daughter. Bayaz felt that he wasn't learning quickly enough with Juvens, so he left Juvens, sought out Canedius in an effort to gain more power and knowledge, and Canedius told him to stay away from a certain part of the Maker's house. Didn't tell Bayaz what was in there. Bayaz did not heed this warning. He entered the restricted area of Canedius' house, and he discovered Ptolemy there. After a time, him and Ptolemy had a romantic relationship. Canedius found out about this, and Bayaz fled back to Juvens. Canedius swore vengeance against Bayaz and demanded this vengeance, and Juvens refused to allow this to happen. So Canedius attacked Juvens and ended up killing him, and Bayaz swore vengeance against Canedius for killing Juvens. Bayaz then gathered up all of the existing Magi's of the world. The only one that did not join him was Cluel, and he started a war against Canedius. This war, of course, Bayaz won. He ended up killing Canedius, but not before Canedius threw Ptolemy out of the Maker's house, killing her also. We now jump back to Column West, who has escaped Bethed's attack with Logan's former clan, Three Trees, Dogman, and the rest of them. He's also brought along with him Pike and Cathal and Prince Ladisla. As they're trudging through the forest, they encounter, or are about to encounter, some scouts from Bethed's army, and they need to kill them before they alert Bethed to their whereabouts. Column West and Logan's former clan go off to take care of these scouts, leaving Cathal and Ladisla behind, as they are determined to be the only two people who wouldn't offer anything of value in this fight. West and Three Trees and the rest of the barbarians end up killing the Bethed scouts. After this, West hurries back to get back to Cathal and Ladisla. He returns to find Prince Ladisla attempting to force himself on Cathal. West, that is, gets really angry, and he decides to push Ladisla off of a cliff, killing him. So now Column has murdered the heir to the Union throne.